Before we call up our keynote speaker, we'd like to start with a little spirituality. We printed it, it's on your tables. I like to find letters of the Rebbe where the Rebbe gives inspiration and direction to business people. So, Bahashkacha Pratis, somebody showed me this is a letter that Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Gutnik, Joe Gutnik, wrote to the Rebbe in 1990 when he was in the middle of his big diamond adventure. And it was a very exciting time, but he was having a tremendous amount of challenges. And he wrote, this is a letter in it's his handwriting. He wrote to the Rebbe the challenges he's having. And if you look at the bottom, this is the Rebbe's response in his handwriting. The Rebbe wrote back to him. He wrote to the Rebbe, I'm having a hard time and I have no one to talk to. I can't find anyone to guide me. So the Rebbe responded to him, why are you complaining that you don't have anyone to talk to? It says it in the Torah, B'chol koreinu elav. Whenever you have any troubles, you turn to God. So you turn to God. And then the Rebbe wrote in parentheses, this is also what I do, by the way. So this is a little bit of advice from the Rebbe. Whenever you're having troubles, turn to Hashem. He will give you the guidance. So we're honored tonight. I want to say, in Chabad Lubavitch, we're blessed that we have a tremendous network. And there's many, many shluchim and many people that have relationships with some of the biggest business people in this country. And I always was my dream to bring some of the top business people in this country to come speak here in Crown Heights. And I want to give a big shout out, Menachem Lang. Are you in the room, Menachem Lang? Menachem Lang is friendly with our keynote speaker, and he on my behalf, he reached out to Michael and he said, Michael, would you come speak in Crown Heights? And Michael said yes, and that's how it all came about. So a big shout out to Menachem Lang for getting this going. Michael is going to be interviewed by one of Crown Heights' distinguished real estate moguls, David Junik. I'm going to call David up. David is somebody well known in the community. He's been running Pinnacle Real Estate of New York for the last 20 years. It's one of the most well-known commercial real estate brokerages in New York. And he's also been involved in some very large real estate acquisitions of his own. He's got a deep industry knowledge. And I couldn't think of a better person to do the interview with Michael, so I'm going to call up David, and then David, you'll introduce Michael.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Tonight's evening is going to be a pretty fascinating evening, entertainment and inspirational as well. The first time I've spoken to Michael Shvo was last week, and what's fascinating about Michael is besides that Michael is very successful, that I'll talk about in a moment, but Michael has a very, very deep spiritual side to him, and he has a very, very deep connection to the Rebbe that he'll talk about as well. And this is something that's going to come as a huge surprise to everyone sitting here tonight, including myself. So Michael Shvo was born in Israel to parents who are chemistry professors. He's a prominent real estate developer based in New York City. He's the founder, he's the founder and chairman, CFO of Shvo, a luxury real estate development and investment firm established in 2004, with offices in New York, Miami, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Chicago. The company oversees a portfolio valued over $8 billion, focusing on high-end residential, hospitality, and commercial properties, including iconic landmarks like Transamerica Pyramid in San Francisco, the Raleigh Hotel in Miami, and the Coca-Cola building at 711 Fifth Avenue. So Michael started as a broker, as many of us have done, at Douglas Elliman, the city's largest real estate brokerage firm, in 1998. By 2003, at age 30, he became the firm's top broker. closing over 400 deals worth more than $300 million. He formed his own group within a firm managing 27 other brokers. After leaving Douglas Elliman, Shvo founded a firm called Shvo, initially focusing on marketing and sales before transitioning to development. He pioneered luxury residential concepts, notably collaborating with Armani Casa at 20 Pine Street, blending fashion and real estate. Shvo's firm acquired since 2019 over $2 billion worth of assets in San Francisco, Chicago, New York, and Miami Beach. I'd like to welcome Michael Shvo. Is it working?
Yes.
So Michael, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
So if you could maybe take us back to early in your career on what led you to real estate and what motivated you to take that first step.
So, there's people that choose their path, and there are people that the path is chosen for them. That's what I thought in 1995. Today we know that it's a whole different story, but let's pretend that, let me take it back. Can you guys hear me well? Yeah, good. I'm gonna diverge for half a second. I'm gonna give you a little bit of background on something, and then so it all ties together. I grew up in Israel, as David said, to a non-religious. There's some echo here. To a maybe shut this off. To a non-religious family. No, remember the Rebbe said there's no Yehudi Chiloni. So I grew up in a non-religious home. My parents were academians. We came to the States in 1978 and 1979. Remember that. We'll tie that story back a little bit later to some interesting things that happened. And I was 6, I went to the Army. While I was in the Army, I was a stockbroker, made a lot of money. I lost all the money I had in one day. I had $3,000 in my pocket. I came to New York because I remember from 1978, when I was living here with my parents, that this was a fascinating city. I was a kid, 6 years old. What did I know? I got on a plane. I came here. I operated yellow cabs illegally from a street corner, from a diner. And this is a true story, a drunk woman says to me, "You should be a real estate broker." Now, I don't know anything about real estate broker, but I thought, it's a fantastic idea. Why? Because being a rental broker, you rent an apartment to somebody today, within 72 hours you get paid. Doesn't get better than that. So I said, okay. I became a real estate broker. And you asked me, that's how I got into real estate. So, again, today we believe the woman was probably, not probably, was some message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling me this is what you need to do. But I didn't meditate, think I should be a real estate broker. I got into that. I ended up being, I was the garbage can of the real estate brokers. So every broker at Douglas Elliman at the time that had a client that they didn't want to handle, somebody with bad credit, cheap apartments, they sent it to Michael Shvo because he'd take everybody. And that's what I did. I used to work 7 days a week, 18-hour days. I meant 18-hour days. Michale, I worked 7 days a week. This was before I did Teshuvah. And I used to sit in the office late at night and take the calls. This was before cell phones or before all the internet stuff you're talking about, mid-90s. I used to take the phone calls that people called the office that wanted to rent an apartment. That was my foray into real estate. Today we've advanced a little. Long answer to a short question, but go ahead.
No, it's definitely fascinating, especially that your parents were, as professors, So I would figure that maybe your parents would try to motivate you to go into the education or something like that. So you going into real estate is definitely iconic, that's for sure. So, question: as a top broker at Douglas Elliman, you closed over $300 million worth of deals. Which brokerage skills directly translated to your success as a developer, and how can entrepreneurs leverage existing skills for career pivot?
So I always said that probably the best experience to what I have today, today we own, we operate, and we develop only super prime real estate. But I come from a unique background because I'm the only person in the industry at this scale, like a multi-billion-dollar development firm, that actually came from the consumer side. And if you think about most big developers, the personalities behind them, they were either lawyers, right? And many of them were lawyers. Some of them were in the construction business. I'm the only guy in the industry at the scale that came from the consumer side. Now, what does that mean? So David came to look at an apartment. I'd take him by the hand. I'd show him an apartment. I know what he likes, what he doesn't like, what works, what doesn't work. That's market knowledge, right? So the most important thing as a real estate developer, you're like a fortune teller. You need to know what people are going to want 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Now, you could go and speak to a broker. Is there anybody that's a real estate broker here? Great. What's your name? Dovchen. Who are you with? Okay, Brooklyn Vertical. So if I ask you today, I'm going to build a building in Brooklyn, what do I build? What are you going to tell me? Let's go with condos. What am I building? What size units am I building? 1 to 3 bedrooms. Okay, 1 to 3 bedroom. That's like, that's like a kosher restaurant. I got sushi, I got meat, I got it. No, that is specific. Let's be more focused. Is it? Okay. Now, why are you telling me to build 500 to 800 square feet? Today. But let me ask you a question. I'm not delivering the building 4 years down the road. So now you got to be a fortune teller. So why am I giving this example? Because my experience as a broker led me to really understand the customer. So when we develop buildings, we used to produce a book that we used to call a concept book. We spent 3 months, in essence, digging into who our consumer, and we would create a market. You mentioned before the Armani. So what I was credited many years ago, I invented the marriage of fashion and real estate. Some of you know there's a bunch of Bulgari and Armani and Versace, all these big brands are in real estate, right? Fashion brands and other brands. Nobu does hotels. So that's something that I invented many years ago in 2005 when I brought Giorgio Armani to design the first residential building in the world designed by a fashion designer. There was a hole in the market. We wanted to fill the hole. So we spent 3 months understanding who our buyer is, where they shop, where they eat, where they vacation, social security number, color of the underwear. Where I know all those 5 things, then we hire an architect, then we start working. We have to be intimate with the buyer before we create a product for them. I'm sorry for my language. I'm Israeli. Go ahead.
So what motivated you to move from the brokerage business? You're obviously very successful. And I think that's a lot of the challenge a lot of people have, that when you're doing very, very well in a certain industry and you're kind of very comfortable in that industry and you know that you can be a lot more successful, but there's also a tremendous amount of risk to what you're doing. So how can entrepreneurs identify the right moment to shift gears?
So again, there's two things happen, right? One thing is I got very frustrated by giving advice to developers that didn't want to listen. I started a real estate firm, and I realized, by the way, the best trick, if you want people to listen to you, just charge more money. And I'm going to tell you a fascinating story about this that ties into ties into religion also. But I was giving, you're giving advice. You're a service provider. I started a real estate marketing firm. So I went from broker to be a marketer because I figured as a broker, I felt like I'm a waiter at the restaurant. Somebody's creating a product, and then I go to you, you want chicken, fish, or soup? That doesn't work. I want to be the chef in the kitchen. Okay, but I can't be the chef in the kitchen, so now I advise the chef in the kitchen what to do. And then I sell also. So I'm not just the waiter, now I'm the chef, and I'm also the waiter. That was all great and fine, and that worked. And I did that for quite a while. And there's a great story, I'll tell you a fascinating story, about Tashgacha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's just before Pesach, I'm in Israel, and I get a call from a guy that works for me, my business development guy. His name was Brian. And we own a real estate marketing firm. We're fairly known. We do all these projects. And Brian says to me, we got a call from this woman in Abu Dhabi. This is 2005. From a woman in Abu Dhabi. She wants us to come to Abu Dhabi and market a project for there. I said, Brian, with respect, you're gay and I'm Israeli. They're going to kill us both when we get there. I'm not going to Abu Dhabi. But he got very angry. It's like, no, you have to get so much money. It's a huge project. I said, tell them to wire $1 million to my bank account for me to get on a plane. Stupid stuff. And you push them away. Shalom al Israel, Pesach. We had a great Seder that year in Israel. My parents were still alive. In Chol HaMoed Pesach, I get a call. Brian calls me up. What's up? How are you? How's the holiday? Great. He said they wired the money. I said, what money? He said they wired $1 million for you to get on a plane to Dubai. I started sweating. I said, for sure they want to kill me. Who wires you money without an agreement? They're killing me for sure. But they call your bluff, so you got to go, right? And we go there. I'm sitting on the plane. He takes a sleeping pill. The guy's out. 16 hours. I'm holding the chair. I'm like, they're going to kill me, but I got to go. I land in the airport. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives me a sign. This is before Israel was open with Dubai. 2 Hasidic Jews with the hat, with the full Hasidic outfit. I said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu just sent me a message. And I wasn't religious then, but even for us, we all know that we have it in our neshama. I felt protected. 3 months later, I moved 70% of my company to the Middle East. And we do tremendous amount of business there. You asked me how I got to be a developer. We did a lot of business in the Middle East. In December of 2007, I come back from Dubai, and I'm asked to give a keynote to the board of Hilton. They want to start a new hotel brand. And again, another moment, it's all moments from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We set up a presentation, and December of 2007, I don't know who remembers, the market was on fire. I mean, you couldn't hold a piece of real estate. Everything was selling. We sold in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, the last project that we did, in 36 hours, individual units, we sold $950 million in 36 hours. That's $950 million of sales in 36 hours. That's unheard of. But that's how crazy the demand is. So we come there, market's on fire, and somebody shows me a bunch of images. There's an image that's stuck in my mind, the photoshopped image of a garbage bag with Louis Vuitton monogram on it. That was made up. I look at this bag and I said, the world's messed up. People just have nothing to spend money on anymore. I called the lecture the era of excess. It's like the light bulb went up, in like the cartoons. I told the board of Hilton the world's going to come to an end, the real estate world. I had 120 employees. That month I fired 75 people and I decided to retire within 12 months. 8 months later, Lehman Brothers collapses. That was a miracle from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I was retired. When I came back, I came back as a developer. That's a whole other story as well, but we'll get to that.
It's certainly pretty fascinating. Everyone, please be quiet. Shh. So moving from brokerage commissions to funding large-scale development requires a significant amount of capital. How do you access the resource or investors needed for your first project? And what advice do you have for entrepreneurs seeking to fund new ventures?
It's obviously the most difficult thing about real estate. They're raising capital. Nothing harder than raising capital. Whoever tells you that that's not the case has never raised capital. My first deal was the Getty. It was a project on 24th Street. Again, I don't want to say by chance, because nothing is by chance. Remember that Brian guy? So he wanted to start the hotel chain, and he was living in Miami. He asked me, do you mind looking at a property for me? I went to look at a property for him. I was retired, was not working. The broker shows me the property. I told him, it's not for you, Brian. He tells me, but there's a property on 24th and 10th Avenue on the corner I'm getting for sale. I went to see it. I told the broker on the spot, I'm buying it. I made a deal to buy it. I had an idea in my head what I'm going to do with it. But I said, okay, now I just signed a contract to buy a $40 million piece of land. I got to develop it. It was not a huge deal. I raised money from a few high net worth guys that I knew, and that was the first deal. The second deal that I did was a property downtown on Greenwich Street. I signed a contract to buy a plot of land for $180 million. Don't try this at home, what I'm going to tell you right now. I signed a hard contract with $15 million of deposit. 90 days time is of the essence. If I don't close, I lose my $15 million. I had no equity and no debt. That's like jumping from the top of the Empire State Building and thinking that you're going to lunch after that. So I'm going to tell you the story how this happened. There's a dear rabbi, Chabad rabbi by the name of Shalom Shapiro, who for years used to come to my office and give a weekly shiur Torah. And I was not really religious at the time. I'd go to shul on Friday, but I did not live a religious life. And I'm trying to raise money, and I got it. I got the whole thing done. And 4 days before the closing, my whole deal falls apart. The capital stack falls apart. I'm dead. I'm about to lose $15 million. That was like practically all the money I had. He says to me, come with me to the oil. I never been to the oil. I said, when you're desperate, you'll do anything, right? You told me to come to you to Mars, I go to Mars. We go to oil. I said, what do I do? I said, write a note, take on yourself something, go do a deal with the Rebbe. Rebbe's a business guy. Do a deal. You say, I do this, you do that, write a note, take the Igrot Kodesh, hocus pocus, Rebbe is going to answer you. Okay, and I'm saying this with tremendous amount of respect because the spoiler that I've seen more miracles by the Rebbe than probably most people. And I don't know why I had that zchut. I just came from the oil, and now I go every week. I'll tell you that story at the end. So I go to the oil with him, and I said, Rebbe, please, I take on, if you make this for me, right? If you save my life here, because I'm going to lose everything, okay? I will be coming here every week for the rest of my life to thank you. Okay, deal's dead. Now the capital stack is I had an investor I had the Chinese government in this. I had Indian group and a New York group. It was like a mess. The next day I wake up, by 10 o'clock in the morning, after I prayed by the Rebbe, the deal came together. And yes, since then every week I go to the oil. And that's, that was...
What's the year? What year was it?
That is a first step of many, many other things that happened, by the oil and with the Rebbe. But go ahead.
What's the year, by the way? What year was that?
This was in 125 grand. You're hitting me here. 2000. Well, 13, 14 maybe. 15.
And you're going every week to the...
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's incredible.
Bli neder, and when I'm here mostly. I just came from the oil. Normally Fridays and Sundays, either Friday or Sunday, yeah?
I mean,
By the way, I want to tell you guys here all sit and talk about the Rebbe and the Rebbe and the Rebbe. It's around the corner. The miracles are here, You don't have to go far.
It's definitely inspirational. I can tell you that I think a lot of us, if we went to the oil every week, would probably look very, very different. So it's kudos to you. So transitioning to development required managing architects, contractors, investors, unlike the smaller teams you had it as a broker. How do you build and lead effective teams in your early development days, and what team building tips can you share?
Close the mic. Okay. I didn't see that question. That's a terrible question to ask me. I'm probably one of the worst managers of human beings. I'm a terrible manager because, you know, where I come, you know, in Israel, we believe that we're all here to work, right? And I always had the problem with the attitude of the fact that managing people is like the stick and the carrot. I'm terrible at this. I have other people do it. But you know, when I interview people, the first thing on my kind of checklist is I ask people, what do you want to do when you grow up? And that's my first question. What do you want to do when you grow up? Now you're asking adults. And if they tell me, oh, I'm already grown up, 99% I don't hire them. Because if you have nothing to grow and you don't want to, if you don't have a dream, if you don't have a passion about something, then you're dead. Then you're a robot. You're doing the same thing. I don't need you. So the people that we've hired are always entrepreneurs, which is a double-edged sword, right? Because it's hard to manage a bunch of entrepreneurs. But at the end of the day, if people have that fire inside of them, right, they will give more from themselves. And we try to hire people that are not. We don't box them. So it's not, you know, it's not your task is to push the pen from point A to point B, and then the other guy takes it from B to C and so forth, right? It's really about having people own the process. And the people that we hire get very excited about our product because what we do is different. We're very unique. What we do is different. It's a unique, it's a very special company because we don't create what everybody else does and do it better. We just do something totally different. So it takes a specific DNA, and you know, a lot of times we'll have people that just can't survive. It's not because of the hard work, because you have to really be an entrepreneur to be part of Shvo. And then over the years, you know, we've obviously built a great team.
But I can imagine, even like going through the process of interviewing, to find that one person that's an entrepreneurial spirit, it's not so easy to find. You know, many of us look to hire people and to find really competent people out there. So how do you attract all those talent to even like to come through the door? Is it salaries or is it partnership? What is it that you're motivating or getting these people to actually call you and reach out to you?
Again, I think, look, take the economics aside. I mean, I think that we pay people probably, you know, better than market. But that aside, it's, I think, the satisfaction that people have by, I don't want to say being their own kind of boss in that sense, but we give a lot of freedom. There's no micromanaging because I want people's input. I said, you know, I've gotten some of, you know, I ask people for their opinion. I'll ask my driver for an opinion because you never know who has a great idea. It's not, doesn't mean that if you're the CEO or the CFO or whatever it is, you're the guy with all the good ideas. I want to be the dumbest guy in the room. So people feel like they're part of the process and they're part of the ownership.
You know, I'm very curious myself as somebody that, you know, makes investments, and I'm involved with other projects as well. And I noticed that you're involved in different states, from San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Miami. And we all know what's happening in San Francisco, the way the market complete collapsed. Offices have been vacating buildings there. Crime has gone up tremendously. Residential development values have gone down. And in 2020, which was not the greatest year, 2020, you purchased for $650 million Transamerica Pyramid. Explain me that process. Number one, how do you decide to go into different states? What states do you choose for what reason? And why is it that you made that big step in San Francisco?
So first thing, the states don't matter. Why I'm saying that it doesn't matter. Remember what I told you before, that our focus is on a consumer. So I got kicked out of high school, among other things. You know, my parents were teachers in Tel Aviv University and then in Stanford and Yale. So I had smart parents. and I clearly failed in their opinion because I did not go to college and I didn't go to university and I was a disaster. I did go to the Israeli army. I didn't become a doctor or a lawyer or an organic chemist like my parents. But I hope that they're somewhere up there and they're proud of me. My parents, I always think about what my parents would think about where I am religiously in my life. I have a quasi answer on that. But you asked about the different markets. So it's about the consumer. I said we were obsessed with one consumer. I only know one thing. I know the consumer at the top of the market, the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. Because we know where they eat, where they shop, where they vacation, the social security number and color of the underwear, we know everything about those people. So our consumer in San Francisco is identical to the consumer at the Coca-Cola building, to the Raleigh in Miami Beach, the 530 Broadway. It's the same customer. It's maybe at the Aman Hotel, at the Mandarin, at the Rosewood. It's the same customer. It's the same mindset. The fact that they're in San Francisco or Miami doesn't matter. Okay, so first thing, we create a product for one customer. But the Transamerica Pyramid is an interesting story. You said 2020 was a difficult year. 2020 for me was the best year ever. And it started by a very interesting, something very interesting. Two stories that are about. So COVID started in March 17. Okay, I was in Miami. All of a sudden, I told my wife, listen, we were on vacation. I told her, listen, I have a feeling they're going to shut the country down. There's no flights. Tried to get a private plane. I couldn't get a private plane. Somehow I found a plane. 2:30 in the morning, I land in the Hamptons. And we land in the Hamptons. April 1, you guys know the real deal? Somebody knows the real deal if you're in the business, yes? So Amir, the publisher of The Real Deal, calls me and said, would you mind doing an interview? A Zoom interview. I said, okay. So everybody's sitting at home. They want to, I said, okay, sure. I think it was April 1st or April 2nd. There's a Zoom interview. And I get on the Zoom. There's like 6,000 people. I'm in my Hampton house. And the guy says to me, Amir interviews, says, what is going to happen with this COVID? So it's 3 weeks into COVID. I said, we're all spraying the boxes, the Amazon boxes. We're leaving them out. We're spraying them, We all think the end of the world's coming, right? I mean, everybody agrees. We all thought the end of the world's coming, or people thought the end of the world's coming. I said, by the way, this is on video. You can listen to this. I said, but when I don't have the answers, and this is, there were 6,000 people. Most of them were non-Jews. I said, I go to the Bible. I pull the Torah live on The Real Deal interview, on the video, and I said, I go to Parashat Noach. And I said, Hashem told Noach, after he destroyed the world with a flood, never again. I said, so the only thing I could tell you guys is, the world's not coming to an end. How do I know? It's written in the book. So for sure we know. And I said, I'll tell you what, more than that. Let's go to another thing. I take the Parashat Bereshit. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Adam, right? Lo tov heyot Adam levado. Right? It's not good for the man to be alone. He says that in the context of creating the woman. But I said, it also says that man should not be alone, right? I said, so this idea that we're all going to sit at home for the rest of our life and do this Zoom ain't happening. Okay? So if those two are emet, because it says there, and I believe that this is emet, then we should all be buying real estate, because this is the number one opportunity to buy real estate. I bought $4.5 billion in the 12 months in the year of 2020. Why? It said in the book. Now you're looking at me like, okay, this guy's out of his mind. Guys, if you have the emunah and the bitachon, you got to act on it. Not just say it, you got to act on it. So, and I went for 3 years. I went on Bloomberg and CNBC and all these different channels, and I said, people, work from home is nonsense. It's not going to last. I used to go on CNN, on CNBC and Bloomberg, and I say, how do I know? It says in the Torah. There's no shame in that. Torah is not something that we should just put in our pocket when it's comfortable to talk among us, but through the goyim or the other people, no, we can't do that. Because they're going to think that we're nuts. No, we were given the answer. I think that what we don't understand, and from a business perspective, is that we have a huge advantage. We know the end. They don't know the end. We know the end. So if we actually read it and we act on the end, we'll do much better than they do and much better than everybody else. So that is how I bought all these buildings. Now the Transamerica Pyramid is an even more fascinating story. I assume some of you know the building. It's the most famous building on the West Coast. It comes to market. I'm in LA. I get a call. It's on the market. I call the broker. It was Friday. Before Shabbat, I called the broker. I said, I want to see the building on Sunday. I said, I'm staying in LA for Shabbat. Sunday, I'm flying out to San Francisco. I want you to show me the building. Guy tells me, I can't show you the building on Sunday. I'm out of San Francisco. It's like $1 billion. That weekend, San Francisco was on fire. The whole skies were red. We're flying in. The plane lands on 2 wheels on the side. It's a crazy story. We're going in. Everybody's running out. The guy won't show me the building. I go, I see the building. I tell the guy that was with me, one of my acquisition guys, said, we're buying the building, I'm going home. I don't need to see the inside. I looked up, I said, we have to buy this. Okay. I go back to New York. It's a process, JLL is marketing it. 44 bidders. 44 bidders. We start the bid. And for those of you who know how the process works, for high-profile buildings, there's multiple rounds. You put a bid, they weave some people out, you put another bid. Normally there's 2 rounds, and they select the bidder. 6 rounds, 6 months of bidding. Interviews and more interviews. This was like the prize of the all prize. KKR and Blackstone and Brookfield, every big name that you guys can think of was bidding. Okay, now, again, those of you that are in real estate, I don't know if you know what to be in deal mode is. In deal mode is like, the horses in Central Park where you have these blinders on the side. You don't see anything. You see the deal. I got to buy it. My kids, we bought another building, 711 Fifth Avenue. Oh, there's a miracle. My kids at home, my daughter was all day saying 711, 711. She had no idea what she's saying because that's the only thing she heard. By the Transamerica Pyramid, I had blinders. The building, I was obsessed with buying this building. I had to buy the building. 4 bidders are left. Myself, with my German partners, the Emir of Qatar. Okay, he was with Benny Ashkenazi. Those know Benny. Ga Capital, which is a big Chinese group, and Vornado, one of the largest public companies. So everybody knows who's bidding, and we're all within the same range of $750 million. And bids were due on a certain day. So I get a call from somebody that works for the Emir of Qatar, one of Benny's guys, like, let's have lunch. So we have lunch. Says to me, I'm buying the building, it's mine. I said, why? I have somebody inside Transamerica, they're giving me all the bids, it's mine. But why don't we partner up? Because let's not bid against each other. I said, I'm honored that you're offering me. Thank you, I'll come back to you. Then Vornado, Steve Roth is probably the shrewdest guys in New York real estate. Says, Sunday call, I have to see you Monday at 10 a.m. I go to his office. He said, I want to be your partner. I said, why? He said, because I don't want to bid against you, and you have good equity partners, and I want to use you. And Matt said that to the face. I had tremendous amount of appreciation. I said, Steve, it's an honor to me that you want to be my partner. He said, but it's my deal. That's what he says. Because the Transamerica CEO told me I'm giving you the deal. So if you want to buy it, you got to go with me. I said, okay, thank you. Now, like in the movies, 3 days earlier, I have a partner in Denver who's a goy. But they all know, all my partners know I keep Shabbat. By the way, Shabbat, best tool to close deals. Whoever doesn't know that you can close any deal with Shabbat, they know by a certain time you're out. You don't close the deal before this, Shalom al Yisrael. I've had so many deals closed before Shabbat. By the way, now I work at Chatzi Hayom. It's even worse. They have to, by noon, the shop is closed. So the guy calls me up, and they know that, I believe in I have a lot of faith, and beyond that, I believe in the signs. Says to me, we went in Denver to a golf course, and my son likes to do golf ball hunting. I said, listen, I'm a Jew from Israel. We don't play golf. So what is golf ball hunting? He says, when they hit the golf ball really far, they catch the balls. We go find balls somewhere. I said, okay, great. So he sends to me a picture of his kid with a golf ball. I said, kid's cute. And then he sends me another picture. The kid turns the golf ball. And on the other side of the golf ball, found in Denver, Colorado, by a guy that's my partner's son, is the picture of the Trans-America Pyramid. Okay, get that? So when I'm sitting in front of them, and I remember that like it was yesterday, and he says to me, Steve, I have the CEO of Trans-America. And he says to me, I have the guy inside. And I'm thinking in my head, and I have a Kadosh Baruch Hu. He told me already, building his mind. But I didn't say anything. Sure enough, I get a letter. I write a letter to Trans-America. I said, this is our offer. And by the way, I'm a religious Jew. We found, tell them the whole story. I write the story, picture of the golf ball. I said, listen, I believe that this is a sign from God that told me that this building should be ours. I get a letter back from Trans-America. They said, we decided to award Shvo the building. We think you would be the best steward of our brand. And then they write, and the golf ball story definitely helped close the deal. Okay, amazing story, right? Somebody doesn't. Now, that's nobody can tell me that statistically what I just told you is possible. Okay, I'm not done. This is if anybody doesn't have emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this story has to tell you the emunah. Now we have a year later. There's a 50th year anniversary for Trans-America Pyramid. Building is, I have the mayor, I have everybody there. And I call my sister in Israel. I said, my mother, who passed away 10 years after my father died, was obsessed scanning every document we had at home. Right? Every document, everything. I said, and my mother at the time was taking pictures. We lived in a year in Palo Alto. I said to my sister, I'm sure we were in the Trans-America Pyramid as kids. Find me a photo. I want to show from the time when I was a kid. Sure enough, she finds photo of my father sitting at the base of the pyramid and me and my sister sitting under the pyramid. I said, it's amazing. Sends me 5 photos. I said to my sister, I had a feeling she was, slacking. I said, I'm sure there's something else, more photos. She said, I promise you there's nothing. I said, send me the hard drive. She sends me the hard drive. And I'm going over it, and we come back in 1980 to Israel, 79 and 80. 80, we live in Palo Alto, and there's photos. So I continue looking, and my mother was obsessed, as I said, scanning every document and writing what everything is. And then I go file, and then another file. The file is written on it, Michael's promise. I open the file. It's not a photo, it's a PDF. I said, okay, I'll open it. I open the PDF. That PDF was a picture from 1981 that I drew myself next to the Trans-America Pyramid. My mother named it Michael's Promise. Myself in 1981, okay, and it's written in Hebrew there, this is school, because for me, that was kind of, what the American dream was for me. So in 1981, the Kadosh Baruch Hu already knew that 40 years later, I'm going to own this building. How many more signs do you need that all we have to do is open our eyes and see this? And this is coming from somebody that grew up, didn't have the privilege to grow up like every one of you, with a zchut to be here, with a zchut to be next to the Rebbe. And I missed the first, I want to say 15, so the first 35 years of my life, I didn't have the zchut to be connected like I am today. So all these signs show you that you're asking me these questions I shouldn't be here. You should interview him and ask him the question. He has the answers, not me.
At least I understand why you go to the Earl every week, so that makes sense. Are you ready? Are you ready for your hardest question? You ready for the challenge? I think a lot of people here suffer with this problem. As a father and a husband, how do you balance the demand of high-stakes career with family life, especially for those in our audience who prioritize Shabbos and family obligations?
So, by the way, Shabbos is the biggest gift you can have. I mean, that's, I'll give you a little bit. People ask me, what's your routine? So I'll give you guys my routine. Wake up in the morning. I pray. I go to the gym. I eat. I study Torah for an hour. That's my. Now I'm studying the Torah with the Malbim, with one of my rabbis, and I do that, and I don't start my day until then. That's something that's fairly new, meaning it's the last 2 years. But I feel what I found out that if you study Torah in the morning, fixes my whole day. My kids, right, balancing the life is something that I'm terrible at. But Shabbat really fixes the whole issue. That's why I love the Shabbat at 4 o'clock. Fixes my whole thing. Now what I try to do, because I have 2 young kids, 5 and 10, now I'm on the school schedule. So I have to go to vacation when everybody else does. So we try to take the summer and really spend the summer with the family and the kids. So it's a bit of intense. I spent the summer away with the family and the kids. I work, but I do it, in a way where I have time with the kids and time to work. Terrible question. I don't have a good answer. I don't know. That's Shabbat. That's the only thing I can tell you. Shabbat Shabbat. By the way, Shabbat is. I can tell you. I have goyim partners and friends that practically keep Shabbat now, because they understand, that first thing, they don't hear from me for 25 hours. That's already peace and quiet for them. But they understand that is what keeps you sane.
Grounded. So here's the last question. So what's the one mistake to avoid and the one value never to compromise on?
So that's a loaded question. Let's talk pure for real estate guys. If somebody's a developer here, Microsoft has this great program that's called Excel, right? The problem with Excel is they missed the button that says execute. And why am I saying that? Because I see deals all day, and I'm a believer. And again, I'm not saying it works for everybody, but my advice, because it's the only thing let's put it this way: I don't give advice. I just tell you how I do it, and people can take what they want from my experience. I believe that you have to be a specialist in what you do. When you become a generalist, okay, then there's no competitive advantage. People come for advice. I have for the past 20-something years, once a month I meet anybody that wants to meet me. They reach out to my office, 15, 20 minutes. People come for advice. That I try to give as much advice as I can, and I truly appreciate the people that come after that to tell me what happened. As a kid that just came to me 3 years ago, had 2 small houses. Today he owns 80 buildings. So, he clearly listened. The idea is that you have to be a specialist. Pick what you know how to do, where you have a competitive advantage. And I say to my guys, we only do what only we can do. Don't try to do what everybody else can do. Figure out what that is. It doesn't matter. You could do rentals in Brooklyn. You can sell, you can sell cars, sports cars, whatever it is you do. Figure out a niche, because with today's technology, with today's AI, you need to offer something in whatever industry you're in that you have a competitive advantage. If not, you could get wiped out because the guy next door is asking for drops the price by 10%. Our competitive advantage is we deliver the best product. I charge, $100 to $200 above market. You talked about San Francisco. My rents in San Francisco today are 3 times what they were pre-COVID, in a market that you said got a little. Today, the market's amazing in San Francisco. But we've created tremendous amount of value by creating a unique product. But I want to just one last thing on you're asking. So let me ask you just the crowded question. Then I think if somebody wants to ask questions, how many people here, kind of work for themselves, don't have a boss? Who doesn't have a boss here? Lift high so I can see. You guys don't have a boss. Okay. Who has a boss here? Okay. Guys, we all have a boss. The boss is the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And I'm saying that not as a joke. It's really important. Because my success at the end of the day is obviously I work my ass off and I work hard. But the Rebbe always said that your bracha at work is not about how many hours you put in, right? The bracha comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He doesn't want us to sit on our ass and do nothing. But it's not correlate to how many hours you put in. There's a whole universe of how success looks and why it looks and all that stuff. But for us, it's important as Jews and as religious Jews, really to understand how we combine the success in what we do in study and in business. And again, you could tell me if I'm right or wrong. A lot of people in the community feel like, of course, we appreciate the Kadosh Baruch Hu and we appreciate the Rebbe and we appreciate everything we have. But at the end of the day, sometimes there's a feeling that because we don't work on Shabbat, because we have to pray 3 times a day, because maybe we look different or we have a yarmulke or whatever that is, we're missing out on the business world. And this is the biggest mistake we can make. And again, maybe not everybody thinks that, and some people think that. We have an advantage. We have the direct line to the boss. They don't. And if we, it's not, to me, it's not that complicated. You read the book, the answers are there. The Rebbe also said, don't wait to give tzedakah after you made money. Say, oh, if you give me this deal, I'm going to make money. No, the idea is give it now, have the faith. And like I said, I went to the oil many times. I've seen crazy miracles that are between health and business, and I tell stories. I could sit here and tell you all night, just different conversation, only about the miracles from the Rebbe. We're all blessed by having that in our life. We're blessed that you guys are in the community, that the Rebbe, his spirit, has given you guys all this, and he's protecting you. Take advantage of that. It's not something that takes anybody down. Take advantage of the fact that you are part of the most powerful nation in the world. We are the chosen people, and we've given the power. So even if something doesn't look good right now, and trust me, my life is public, I've had a period where I thought that it was over. Without going to the oil, I would have been dead today. Dead. I've seen dark days and dark days and dark days and dark days. And at the end of the day, what happened is I went to the Kotel, I prayed in the Minarot Kotel, and when I came out of there, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me a miracle. So always remember that he's protecting us, he's our partner, we all have a boss, and if we partner with him, Be'ezrat Hashem, it's all good.
Michael, thank you very much.
So I want to give a big round of applause to Michael. He just told me he's not in the rush to leave, and he's gonna take a round table. So we're gonna switch to round tables, and Michael's gonna sit here at this table momentarily. And a big round of applause. Thank you very much, David. This was an excellent conversation. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, before we transition, before you stand up, before we transition to the round tables. It's a bit of a rough, the acoustics aren't great in this room over here. There's a lot of thanks tonight for this event to happen, and we need to thank a lot of people. Thank you very much. Thank you, David. I want to thank, first of all, this is called the Founder Circle Gala. CHYE could not do what it does without the support of the Founder Circle members. Many of them are listed here. Thank you very much. And I want to thank the sponsors of tonight's program. This event could not happen without sponsorship. And I'd like to call up CHYE Gorkin from Ainsworth and Gorkin, please, to share a few words. Lost the crowd already. It's over. CHYE, are you here? Oh, you're no one's sitting. I can't.
Say thank you. That's it. All right. Testing. Is this mic working? Thank you. Michael, thank you for that. That was a really inspiring panel. Michael, the most inspiring part of your entire conversation here was, you had a lot of inspiring stories, but the most inspiring thing for me was how often you go to the oil. I could take a lesson from you on that, so thank you very much. Rabbi Werney, it's an honor to be a sponsor at this event and a sponsor for CHYE. Your dedication to the community is unbelievable. We should all be as dedicated to our businesses as you are to CHYE and to the community, so thank you very much. Just a quick plug, 5 seconds. My name is CHYE Gorkin. I'm an attorney. I practice commercial and civil litigation. No one really knows what litigation is. If you have a dispute, whether it's with another business or another individual, come to me. I'll help you out. My partner does contracts, whether it's mergers, acquisitions, any type of contract you need for a startup or an existing business, reach out. We're happy to help. Thank you again.
Thank you, CHYE. Thank you, Ainsworth and Gorkin. I'd like to call up Beryl Bruchstadt from Fast and Halberstam. Well, gold sponsors for tonight, business accountants.
Thank you very much, Yeshua, for giving us the opportunity to be sponsoring tonight's event. Beryl Bruchstadt, a manager at Fast and Halberstam. We're a firm that works very closely with the real estate professionals, whether it's brokers, developers, and investors. We stand by our clients, help them to navigate complex issues, 1031s, cost segregations, and complex ownership structures. Whatever it is, we stand and we make our clients feel confident. We quarterback. What we specialize in is service. So just to mention what something Michael mentioned before, you got to hire entrepreneurs. We are a group of very talented accountants in all levels, from juniors, managers, partners, but we all have one thing. We're entrepreneurs. We like to put ourselves in our clients' shoes, understand the deal, understand what they need, and help them navigate the complex situation. Again, thank you everybody for coming. And make sure to stop by our booth, take some swag with you. You have some flashlights for your kids. I'm sure they're going to want it. Take some wine openers for you, for your show.
Thank you very much. I would like to give a big thanks to Aaron Goodman. Aaron Goodman, wave to everybody. Aaron is a special lawyer focused on real estate acquisitions. If you're closing a deal, Aaron's your man. Thank you very much. I want to thank Mendel Grossman. He's a photographer, Grossbaum. He couldn't be here tonight, but he sponsored tonight. I want to give a big thanks to Nutta Gross. Nutta, come up for a second. For a picture. All right. Over here. Smile. Okay. Thank you. Barry Volasov. Barry, are you here? Everybody that's looking to hire an employee, put this in the middle. Be Hired is your source. Thank you. Okay. AI Digital Commerce. Ellie come up for a second. Come up.
Unnecessary. Everybody can hear. You don't have to scream. If you have an e-commerce or lead gen business, there's a lot of new things that are coming out, a lot of things that are inside your system that you don't know of. Just make an appointment. Pick up the notepad, scan our Calendly, and make an appointment. You won't regret it. We'll just find a few things that you can do better at. We won't charge you for it. So just mention the Huddle, and it's free.
Anyone that needs digital marketing, this is your source, AI Digital Commerce. I want to thank COL Live for their media sponsorship. And I want to thank Madison Commercial Real Estate. Shirley Rosenbaum, are you here? Shirley Rosenbaum. Are you in the room?